so excited you're here. So today, I'm going to go over the inner work that I did and I used to master clean eating and regular exercise. And I have over 30 years of converting over from a lot of processed foods and really no activity, because I did not grow up being an athlete at all. I grew up on the statistical foods and I was involved in a lot of other events that had nothing to do with exercise. So I went through my whole experience of processed food and all of that, so that's part of my journey. And there are certain things that I use in my inner work to convert from processed food and a non-exerciser over to a complete exerciser and a clean eater of 30 years now. And these are some things substantially that I've gone through it throughout the time. And so I'm going to go over those secrets today. So, and just so you know, I actually created a whole system out of a lot of these secrets. And if you send an email to the link in the thing, I'll actually send you my 11 steps. Okay, let's dig in. I'm excited. So the first one of my biggest secrets, and I learned this at a young age. And a lot of these things I actually learned at a young age. And I actually just started applying them. And I feel like, and what I learned when I was really young on applying these is that I had to apply them at a certain degree, or I was not going to get the change that I really wanted in my life. And at the time, I didn't understand a lot of the actual things that I do now about living on clean eating and having a life of regular exercise. I just knew, like, it must have been 30 years ago now that it's been about 30 years. I just knew 30 years ago I was really, really miserable. And I had a lot of things going on with my body that made me feel very uncomfortable. I had different swollen arms, I had different swollen legs. I actually had genetically, I had a pretty skinny waist, but it's just like my legs would explode and my arms would explode. And at the time I didn't know that had to do with a hormone imbalance, but today I do, because I've done so much work on doing it. But I had all sorts of issues when I was young, and I kept asking, why am I having all these reactions when my friends aren't? Right? Why can't I eat this food and do all these things? Because I was just trying to do all the things my friends were doing. And that was the biggest thing that I realized that I couldn't, and I just didn't feel good. After I started realizing that it was the food that was making my body not feel good, I started to do a lot of research on that. And it wasn't the research and the education that did most of the changing, even though learning the right thing is super, super important. It's actually the inner work that I did that allowed me to actually use the education that I was coming in contact for. Okay, and it's the inner work that actually allows me to keep using more educational tools as they come along, and I can actually get educational stuff, and I'm able to discern more of, like, whether I should spend effort on this or should not spend effort on it. Okay, so inner work tip number 1: being truthful. And being truthful can have many different degrees to it, just like eating clean can have different degrees to it, just like exercising can have different degrees to it, just like managing your finances or managing your relationships. They can have different degrees of effort and result and response. And most everything in this life is cause and effect. So and if you do enough studying, you can learn all the chain lines of the cause and effect for almost every single thing. There's a cause and effect for finances, for relationship, for food, for exercise. All these things have a natural flow to them that is outside of us that we don't get to control. And that's the big thing. If you want to master self-control, you need to first get in line with those timelines, okay? And then once you're in line with them, you need to be truthful, okay? And truthful to the degree that it takes to get the result, okay? So one of my favorite Bible verses is 2 Timothy 2:15. It says, research everything. Research it all. and rightly divide the truth. Okay, so two key terms I learned to master at a very young age, and these are both inner work terms, okay? But these are two key things I learned how to master. One was called rigorous honesty, okay? And what rigorous honesty means, it's getting down to the real root honesty of everything, where you start owning your own behavior, your own part, how much you're interjecting into a truth, how much you're shifting or manipulating a truth. Rigorous honesty means we're not going to manipulate it. Rigorous honesty means, and rightly dividing the truth, means that we're not going to take part of the truth and change the last part of the sentence, or shape it off in a different meaning, or take part of the truth and just overhype it so it's out of context of what it means. Rigorous honesty and rightly dividing the truth, meaning it means projecting the truth without your influence and opinion and thought and any type of manipulation. It's at the true root of how the truth is meant from the actual words that are meant from the truth, or the definition, or the science, okay? And that's not something that you can actually just do right off the bat, especially nowadays, okay? And nowadays, I think it's even harder to be truthful and harder to be honest. And one of the contributors to that is marketing and media and social norms. That produces 80% of the world's ideas, and the marketing and the social norms work hand in hand together. And it's a combination of just a bunch of random information with the goal to sell a product or idea. Okay, and I'm sure there's lots of pluses to some of these products, ideas. I'm sure there's some negatives, and I'm sure there's some neutrals. But one of the negative effects it's had on people's abilities to be honest or have a high understanding of rigorous honesty or rightly dividing information is we start using slang words and half truths and half meanings. And we start speaking in this way where it's like a half truth and a half meaning. Okay, some examples of that, and if you study etymology, which is basically the histories of words, it makes it easier to start understanding our history and start understanding how maybe things have broken down over time, and they start becoming half truths. Okay, a really good, and this isn't a lie, but I would call it a half truth. Or that it's just not represented in its true context of its true power, right? And that's part of honesty, right? And that's not a part of honesty that you're deciding to go out and be dishonest about and lie about. You'd actually have to understand a little bit more about the subject to really rightly divide it in its true value, right? But a couple different word phrases that and we're on a nutrition channel, so I'll just use ones related to, more to nutrition and health, would be emotion, right? Emotion, and we have a certain content with emotion in our social norm that people think about it, and sometimes it's negative, sometimes it's positive. I think it's become more negative slowly over time, and emotion is really kind of downplayed, especially with women. Women are called emotional, or there's all this stuff around the word emotion. Right? You could probably think of your own statistical stuff, but just think about how the word emotion is used and what you think about the word emotion, and what the first thing that comes to mind with the word emotion, right? Well, now I'm going to describe what the word emotion, the slang word emotion, came from. Okay, the slang word emotion came from energy in motion, right? So energy in motion is the actual real word, and that's actually a very scientifically descriptive word, right? But you probably have to do a little bit of education to actually start seeing the honesty in that. But by using the correct terminology, energies in motion, it's from a self-development or inner work aspect, it puts you more in a powerful position. It puts you more in a position of science, rather than whatever random emotions have been triggered through an emotion through marketing. Okay, and I'm going to explain that again, so I'm not running too fast, right? So the point of a commercial or anything in marketing is to have your emotion attached to that service idea so that you'll pull out your pocketbook and spend, or that you'll actually go take your time and work for this cause. Like every single, and their commercials, Super Bowl commercials are $4 million. So this is how powerful marketing is for 30 seconds of your time, and having your emotion get triggered, you know, for to get out your pocketbook or spend your time and your money on it, right? That's the whole point of the marketing, right? So if marketing points out these terms in a certain way, then we start embodying those, whether they're the real terms or not. And that's one of the issues that I'm seeing, is that there's so many terms and new terms, and they're more slang terms or just broken down terms, or maybe they're just the way that they organically got put out so many times in marketing and media. And this is random, right? Because these are all separate companies doing this, right? Using these terms. But when you have a high word count on a certain term, then the population will pick up on that and think it's the meaning, right? And so emotion is not the social norm definition that we have for emotion, or how people normally think about emotions. I'm really seeing, like, in my opinion, it looks like a lot of the trends are devaluing human emotion too. Like, human emotion is not important, but it's actually the most beautiful, most powerful part of us, right? And so if I were to rightly divide, if I were to research everything and rightly divide the truth, I would start using the word energy in motion rather than emotion. And energy in motion actually puts you right in the definition, right when you say the word. And there's a lot of balance in that when you use the right words. Our words create and they destroy, right? And so if we're using the correct words and not using slang words, or words that marketing has come up with to sell a product or an idea or get a shorter time span, because remember, they want to get everything in these little seconds, like, you know, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 30 seconds, right? So they have to shorten all those words. But if we use the real meanings of stuff, that actually puts us in truth. It puts us in the position of rightly dividing. And our emotions are our most powerful part about us. So the more that we are actually in truth, the more we rightly divide our truth, the more we research things, the more it actually empowers our own self-control and self-governance, okay? And self-governance is the action of just going out and owning it and doing it yourself, which is also part of self-control. So people that want to learn self-control need to understand what self-governance is. And they need to do inner work and understand the different parts of their self that they need to start shifting. And that's also part of being honest, right? Being honest, being rigorously honest, part of that is looking at yourself and saying, okay, where am I off? And how does this, okay, I said earlier, each thing has its own flow, right? So if I'm off of my nutrition, my food, and my exercise, I want to be honest about that. Am I not getting up every day and making time? You want to be, and here's a little, I'll give a little bit of advice on the being honest. Stay out of guilt, okay? You cannot be honest from a punishing standpoint. Do not punish yourself, okay? A lot of the messages that we've gotten from marketing and media teaches and promotes this punishing mindset, not on purpose. Not on purpose. They're just trying to do their goal of sell a product to the consumer. And I don't like the word consumer, but they're viewing it as a consumer, anybody who's purchasing from them. So it's more of your job to kind of define these things. And that's also part of being honest, is just taking full responsibility. Like we all are powerful, powerful beings. And that's the truth. And those are truths that we all need to embody and understand and learn and accept about ourselves. And when we do accept that we're powerful beings, we get blessed with that feeling that we're a powerful being, okay? And talking in truth and rightly dividing stuff and looking at ourselves, the inner work, the being truthful, right? The truthful part is the first step. I have 11 steps on here, which if you email me, I'll send these to you. But the first one is awareness. If the first step to changing anything that you're not happy with, in money, in relationships, in anything, is awareness. For you to have awareness, you have to be truthful. And here, this is a really, really cool thing that I learned over the past 30 plus years. Because I started this when I was young, and I was like, okay, rigorous honesty. Okay, I'm going to just do my best to do whatever this is. And I don't know why I had this mindset, but I'm super glad I did when I was young. But when I was young, and I went out and I started embarking on this trail of clean eating, the regular exercise, and researching stuff, and rightly dividing stuff, I said, you know what, I'm just going to go all in. Because if this is going to work, I'm only going to know if I'm going all in. If I only go part in, I'm not going to understand fully if this works. And I want to know if something works or if it doesn't. So I'm just going to do it all, and I'm going to apply it all, and things that are not going to work are going to fall off, right? And I did that with my spiritual life, because I didn't grow up in a household where we talked about God or God was promoted or anything like that. Actually, I never even heard of that word until I was about 20, or maybe 18, a little bit younger than that, but about 17. And I just decided, hey, well, I'm just going to believe, and I'm going to try all these things, and if it's not true, it's going to prove itself not true. And that's the thing. Things prove themselves not true or true. So try this. Try the rigorous honesty, because it will prove itself true. And the thing is that honesty is also part of healing. And there's just different ideas that sometimes get stuck in there from our own habits or different things we were exposed to, and it doesn't matter how it got in there or why. The only thing that matters is that we start taking steps that get us in line with what we want and desire in our life, okay? And this is the best way to get the control, is by understanding how things work and giving up the control. But you have to understand how things work, so you have to research, right? And then you have to be truthful, right? If we did that with our finances, right? If we researched everything in money, and we're like, okay, these are all the rules of money, and now I understand them, I did my research, but you still were not in truth with money. You still didn't say, oh, I need to plan for a crisis, or oh, I don't need to do this planning. If you just still said that you didn't plan, what would happen? You're not going to have, your money's not going to work for you. Money has a flow, right? Relationships have a flow. So the only thing we get to do is learn about them and master them, right? And inner work, doing the inner work releases blocks, okay? It totally releases blocks. So a lot of, I've spoken a lot about the changes that we've had to our food industry the past 300 years with all this processed foods. Those are all half-truths. They're all half-truths, okay? The original design is the one ingredient foods from the earth that naturally occur in the earth. None of those seeds can be patented or owned. And it's Genesis 1:27 through 2:25 that actually has all the things that hold up in a court of law for our foods. That's the history, that's the truth. And since then, we've had many versions of definitions and different food products put out that aren't real food. Food is actually the stuff that comes from the earth. All right. So some skills that rightly dividing the truth give. Okay. And when you start speaking honestly, and sometimes you don't want to do this honesty out loud to other people, or sometimes you want to do it like in a notebook or whatever, because you want it to be raw. You want it to be like whatever you're thinking or feeling or whatever. That's a habit that you're trying to build, okay? And when you do that and you start cleaning out the closet with all these like past subjects, and some of the subjects might not even have anything to do with nutrition or fitness. And most of the time, like I've been working with people for over 26 years, and I do my own self-development, so I've gone down this trail my own self. There's not anything that I don't teach that I don't actually live myself. But when you're honest about stuff, that's when the healing process starts. That's when you actually start letting go of stuff. That's when stuff actually goes away, right? You hear people that, or I have, because I've coached people for so long, when they struggle to get on a clean eating plan, right? And they struggle with all these things to get in a clean eating plan. A lot of times when people do make that full conversion, and I've had tons of people make that full conversion, it's always in a process of where they are getting really, really honest with their behaviors, what they're doing, and a lot of these people had different emotional things or experiences in their life that they had to heal from as well. You know, and healing it doesn't necessarily have to be a big, huge traumatic event. Sometimes it can be small things. Sometimes it can be just ideas that we picked up. Most people have, like, years 1 through 5 grown up being exposed to a lot of processed foods, right? That starts adapting our actual tongue and our chemistry, and it starts adapting our brain and our self-development, that this is a normal food, this is normal for part of life, when it's actually not. So realizing some of the actual histories and the history of our food is part of being truthful, is part of being honest, is part of understanding what's going on. If you don't actually do your own research and start to understand these things, then it's actually hard to have confidence in rightly dividing. Okay? The more that we, like, I've done all my own research, right? Where I've physically saw things with my own eyes, or I've seen different books where PhDs are saying this, and this PhD is saying that, and this PhD is saying that. It's those points when you actually see things with your own eyes that you actually start ingraining, you start believing, you start going, oh, well, maybe this is incorrect, and I need to shift that, right? So being truthful and researching the information is tip number 1, okay? Number 2 is living life on life's terms. And living life on life's terms is also being honest, okay? It's also being truthful, okay? Unfortunately, we don't get to control all aspects of life. We don't get to control our struggles. We don't get to control our successes. I mean, we have some sort of control over what we get to choose to do, but we never get to choose the actual outcome. And so accepting life on life's terms is another big, huge secret towards overcoming obstacles and not letting obstacles define your path. So I've had tons of struggles in starting my business and being an athlete, with my own body, with having reactions from my own body from different food or stressors. And any one of those instances I could have took as a reason to not move forward. I could have took as a reason to say, oh, I'm stuck in this spot, okay? I could raise my hand to be in any position of moving forward, standing still, or going backwards. That is my free will and my free right from God, okay? I get to choose to be in any one of these groups, okay? And the idea of living life and accepting life on life's terms, right? And one of the biggest things that helped me do this is my belief in God. So if you don't believe in God, I'd pick up a Bible. The 1611 Bible holds up in a court of law. It is actually a legal document. And Genesis 1:27 through 2:25 tells us a lot of covenant rights that we have right now that still exist. So, but anyways, back to life on life's terms, right? When you accept life on life's terms, it keeps you in that positive, creative mindset, and that mindset that your energy is just like off the charts. It's an attraction. That's how the law of attraction works. You know, it's a vibrational frequency. So life on life's terms keeps you in a certain positive energy that has you creating more things that have to do with that creative, positive energy. That would also have to do with your purpose in life, would also have to do with really bringing the best you out. You know, you know, a lot, here's another thing too. So on the power of like a positive mind. A lot of times people will identify their struggles and they'll be like, oh my God, I have this struggle. Right? And the struggle can be like, I have to move, a loved one died, I got injured, I have to change jobs, I have a huge financial issue, I have all these different things, right? Well, in financial planning, if you're going with the flow of money, right, you say, oh, I'm going to plan for a crisis if something happens, right? And so then if a crisis happens, your emotions don't get all jumbled. Because, well, they do, but you get to like address whatever is happening in the situation rather than being all stressed out about finances while addressing it, right? So that's living on life on the flow of money, right? Well, just living life on life's terms, it would be unrealistic to say that we're never going to have a struggle, that we're never going to have something really horrible happen to us. We're never going to have some, in any category. It doesn't even matter what it is, but there's lots of highly discouraging things that can happen, right? But the more that we are in acceptance on life's terms, when these things come up, the faster we actually get into a solution or peaceful mindset, or have like our shoulders down, or are just more in line with life on life's terms. It's really when we start saying like, oh my gosh, this stuff should not happen, or oh, it's this person's fault, or just having all this extra stuff. I mean, I would definitely give recognition, spend time in recognition, but don't live in it. There's a difference between giving recognition to something and then addressing it and moving on, and taking that situation and having your emotions really spend all this time circling it and building it up and building it up and giving you a reason why you can't reach your nutrition and fitness goals. Okay, so here's a really good example of that, right? It's very, very common that when somebody has an injury happen, or like they just started a nutrition, right, and fitness program, and they have an injury happen, or they have something just stressful at work, a person in their life, something happened to where they got triggered. Right? And there's that word, triggered, right? And that's what marketing does. Marketing triggers us to spend, but there's other things in life that we could just become triggered to, and then we have an emotion that comes up, an emotional response, right? And if we get triggered, if we have the habit of our emotions taking us off track with nutrition and fitness, this message right now is for you, okay? Because that's a trigger. And the really cool thing is that trigger can be healed and it can go away, okay? And that's actually how we gain the self-control and the self-governance, and we can move forward, okay? But until we actually identify that, and that goes back to rigorous honesty, right? Researching things, maybe we have to identify why we're getting triggered and what the definition is, and why we're embodying that emotion, right? Maybe we have to research it, and then we have to be honest about it. We're being triggered, right? There's something, right? And maybe even try writing it down and catching it, right? Because usually people have the same triggers that kind of set them off and get them off their nutrition or off their exercise track, okay? And it's very, very common if somebody gets an injury and they stop exercising, or if they just stop exercising for any reason, that they stop eating well, okay? That's a trigger. Like what does your food have to do with your exercise? Nothing. And 80% of the results is in the exercise. But I've watched this for over 26 years. As soon as people get discouraged and they can't exercise, they stop eating well, when they have nothing to do with each other, right? So these are triggers, okay? And we want to start identifying these things, no matter how small or big they are. And what I find is a lot of them are small. They're usually things that don't even matter anymore to people, like when we start identifying what a trigger is. Right? But the cool thing is those can be healed, they can be removed, and then when they are, that's when you're actually free, and you're like, you have a different mindset. You're like, whoo, I have a different mindset. I don't, and that's what lifestyle change is. Lifestyle change is when you actually change. Things that are the same, things that are different are not the same. Things that are different are not the same. And if you actually go through a lifestyle change, right? And changing your nutrition and your fitness is a lifestyle change. That's a mindset change, right? We have to shift into a new thought. And what are those new thoughts going to be? In my 30 years, in my own experience with myself and with all people, it's gonna lie in the inner work and the things that are holding us back, okay? And when I'm working with people, it's usually one or two things that keep them from the next level. And it's all in this inner work. It's usually a trigger. Right? It's a trigger that gets them not eating their protein. It's a trigger that gets them not eating their carb. It's a trigger that says, even though I just spent thousands of dollars hiring somebody. I'm going to actually write the plan myself. And I have people do that, and it's like, I think it's the craziest thing in the world. It's like, I have 26 years experience in exercise science, sports nutrition, but it's how the psyche works. And when you break it down, and I'm talking to my clients or whatever, it's messages for marketing, and they don't even know why they're doing these things. They just know that that's what they keep doing, you know. And just a little for me, when I was younger, and before I kind of did the whole conversion over to the clean eating lifestyle, I was literally like addicted to sugar and all processed things. I would come home from school and eat like 5 bowls of cereal. My mother would find me at 1 or 2 in the morning, passed out in the middle of the hall with Ho-Hos and Cheetos all over me. And I literally, she had to put locks on the cabinet, the snack cabinet, so we get 1 snack per lunchbox. I would break through the lock. That's how powerful it was. Sugar addiction is very, very powerful. And that's another thing to be honest, rigorously honest about. And if that one thing, if we took the entire United States and everybody was just honest about that one thing, that would be a game changer in the world. Because sugar is 8 times more addictive than cocaine, okay? And if we raised our kids on cocaine in years 1 through 5 and 5 through 15, why would we expect them not to have cocaine addicts in their adult years, right? We have 300 years of processed food going on, and almost all the processed food converts to sugar and is 8 times more addictive than cocaine. So it's kind of like, if you're having these things in your lifestyle, it's like that would be the same thing as a cocaine addict having small bits of cocaine. You know, it's going to be, they're going to struggle more. The cocaine addict is going to suffer less as soon as he removes the chemical out of his life, gets rigorously honest, self-develops himself, and gets on a pattern of food that actually balances out the body and the chemistry so that you feel the balance. And exercise science and sports nutrition does that. So life on life's terms. And we got to realize the terms too with food nowadays, right? Because food, it's so confusing, all the different options out there. Okay, some other things. So our world is extremely divided nowadays also. And, you know, I've done a lot of spiritual work, and it's like, I've thought about this since the pandemic. I was just like, gosh, like I was actually astonished. I was like, how did the world get so divided? Like right after the pandemic, it was almost like, I mean, you could feel a little division before the pandemic, but it's almost like after the pandemic, there was like a million more reasons for people to not get along and be on the opposite side of the fence is the best way to see it. Whether it's a small subject or a large subject, it's like we have more reasons to be on the opposite side of the fence, even with our friends and our family, than we do to be on the side of the fence. You know, it's almost like there's this huge like butting of the heads or whatever. So. But I'm like, that's crazy, right? Well, 80% of the world's ideas come out of marketing and media. So 100% that was an influencer for just like putting 50 million, I don't know that they're that much, but just that many more subjects to argue about. And, you know, I thought about that, and I was just thinking, you know, because I would think about different things, and some of the subjects that were brought up, I was like, well, this is my opinion, and I would think about different things, and it's just like, you know, no matter what my opinion was, and some of the stuff, a lot of stuff I didn't have an opinion on because it just felt like I couldn't have an opinion. And that's a very honest position, right? Because it's like a lot of these things that people argue over, they don't have firsthand knowledge of it. Like they don't. And if you don't have firsthand knowledge of something, it actually increases the rate of untruthfulness of your position. And it would be more truthful to not take any position. Okay? And so that's how rigorous honesty can actually bring more control in your life, is actually looking at a subject, you know what I mean? And we can do this in nutrition and food, or we can do it in any other subject of the world. But it's like, and just for an example, with everybody getting divided after the pandemic, all these new subjects to argue about, it's like if you don't have firsthand knowledge, if you don't personally, that's a weak position. And so it's like when I thought, okay, well, how do I want to speak about different things to people in my life? You know what I mean? And I would sometimes give my opinion on different things, but I would also try to do it with the aspect of I don't have firsthand knowledge. And this is just an opinion, and I'm not trying to control something in you to believe what I believe. Because in reality, if I don't have firsthand knowledge, if I don't really have concrete belief, it's like it would be untruthful for me to say, okay, this is the way it is, right? So it's really important to research and rightly divide the truth. It's super, super important. So if you're not doing that research part, you're not really, if you're just repeating stuff that you hear or whatever, that can super, super increase your rate of being in an untruthful position without you even realizing it, right? You know, and our words create and they destroy. So if you're going out saying stuff, promoting stuff, you want to make sure it's something you believe in, that's part of who you are, and that it actually is true. And that brings peace to the body, okay? When you're arguing a subject that you know is true, you also don't do it to put somebody else down. That's a good way to tell how researched somebody is in a subject and how truthful they are, is their emotions and their emotional responses. You don't have to put, there's something that's going to be untruthful about the statement. I don't know what it is, but there's going to be some sort of untruth, like maybe part of it's truth, but part of it's untruth, like maybe it's the truth taken out of its context, okay? If somebody is being put down, there is some sort of an untruth in that. There is some sort of an untruth, because in reality, we are all created equal, okay? And that's the reality of it. So nobody should have to be put down in a subject, even if somebody has some valuable information to share. Even if they have a great opinion, or they do have partial truths with a little, you know, and maybe the only thing that makes it a half truth is now that they're putting somebody down with the information. Maybe that's the only thing that's untrue about it, right? Because if you use truthful information to put another person down in their place, like that kind of creates an untruth in there, and that creates a negative feeling. And I don't know if you can tell by hearing this, but me, when I hear this, I could see how that could start to affect my own personal energy, and that could start affecting my ability to master new things that I want to bring into my life. Because the law of attraction and manifestation is very positive, and it's like if you want clean eating and you want exercise as a regular lifestyle, then the more you have these positive vibrations, the more you attract that lifestyle to you. And it's because you're not putting up blocks. Putting another person down is a block, and it's an untruth, okay? What's truthful is that we're all powerful beings, and some people know how to harvest that more than others. And if you know how to harvest that a little bit more, then the biggest thing you can do to empower your own self and your own control is give that energy out, okay? And maybe you want to tell your truth with that energy, right? Maybe it's just the energy you're using to project your truth, right? Okay, so love your struggles. This is a big, just, you know, law of attraction and just life on life's terms kind of tip. So when you love your struggles, right? And I've had some big struggles that I really didn't want to deal with. I can even think of some now. Like we all have them. But what happens when you love your struggles, right? And you're grateful for them, you can see things in a more truthful perspective of just your entire life, right? Yes, this is a struggle that I don't like, that is affecting my life, but it's not my entire life, okay? And it's really in the emotional trail, and it's like this emotional trail that I started to explain earlier. Well, the emotional trail is just part of it when people get triggered, but it's really in the power of a positive mind, staying in that energy and that mindset and that truth. It's like a position that you start attracting these things back in. You start attracting new things or the things that you desire into your life. So loving your struggles it's actually putting a vibrational energy on those struggles. It's actually that from an energetic perspective is accepting it. Okay, it's saying, okay, this is part of my life. This is stuff I can handle. This is stuff I can handle. This is stuff I know how to deal with. That's a very confident position, and this is one that anybody can raise their hand for, even if it's difficult. Okay, and this is a little tip. If the things I'm saying feel difficult, if they feel like, oh, that's way out there, like, oh, you've been doing this for years, so of course you can do that, or if it's like any of this stuff, I'm just gonna tell you, this is the key to that. It's the get it done mindset. It's where you make things super, super small. Okay, because this will work, but if it doesn't work, if you feel like anxiety or like, oh, I can't do that, then break it down, make it smaller. You have and how small you make it, your emotions will tell you. When your energy in motion puts your shoulders down and you feel relaxed and you're like, I can do that. That's the truth. Okay, the truth is within us. That's one of the biggest things that people don't realize. It's not outside of us. We don't need to get the information from outside of us. We don't need information coming from outside. It's all within. We need to have confidence in our design. We need to have confidence in who we are, that even all the defects, they're not really defects. So anything that any struggle or anything that you might consider part of the list of things that are not good about you, those are actually not. They're not bad at all. There is no such thing as good and bad, and that's what you have to get out of this good and bad labeling mindset, this black and white labeling mindset. That's not how things really work. That's something that marketing taught us. That's a matrix that works in marketing to sell products and drive consumerism. Okay, so I'm saying step out of the consumerism. Okay, and really the consumerism is what shaped it. I'm sure this wasn't intentional, but it's just what happened. It shapes 80% of the world's ideas. Okay, so if you look at how marketing and media works, that has shaped a lot of people's emotions and blocks and ideas. And so we need to stop going to outside sources to get the information and start learning how to get it from inside sources. Okay, and that comes from spiritual work, inner work, getting truthful and honest with yourself and the different good and bad and neutral things about yourself, and realizing that anything that might be considered bad is not bad. No, actually it might just be something that needs to be healed, and healing is not promoted in our society, so a lot of people don't understand the trail of healing. But the cool thing is, it's not what happens in our life. You know what I mean? And some of the things we probably can't even bring up or register them because we don't even know how they got there, and it doesn't matter. But what it is our responsibility is to heal it. Okay? And the cool thing is once something's healed, that's when the self-control comes in. And it's just natural. You start self-governing, and that gives the self-control because you're working in the flow of life, on how life works. Okay? And just like with money, or with business or other things, we don't get to predict how these things run. So we don't get to change the flow of these things for how we feel. So life on life's terms is the same way with your nutrition and your fitness. Do not change, don't let go of the idea of other people changing and other situations changing and other things changing, and start changing you in the inside with inner work. And you'll have all the self-control that you need, not only for clean eating and exercise, but it'll channel into other areas. So I've been into self-development, and since before I was into clean eating. Originally I randomly developed a relationship with God just because I was unhappy with my life. And I didn't know what this concept of God meant, and so people, said, "Oh, just pray to God." So I just started praying to God. I was like, "Okay, well, I'll just pray to God, and I'll just believe it, and I'll just lay everything down just to see if it works." And it does. That's the cool thing, is it really does, because that's how everything is designed, and that's the biggest thing that's being kept from a lot of people. It's kept in the Bible. But anyways, you know, and then I've been into self-development ever since, right? Because that's the original author, that's the original design that we got set up. And, but it's through this inner work that you learn the flow of life and how we work as people, right? So if you want to learn the flow of life and how we work as people, develop yourself spiritually, 100%. And God will actually give you more answers than you will find in any outside world. And that's the best source to kick into. It really, really is. But that's where the inner work is. That's where all the inner work is, and self-development and self-control. It's through getting honest with self, really looking at what's happening. You don't have to share it with other people. Maybe you just write it in a book, or some of these things are small. But in any case, no matter what the subject is, big or small, it's doing the inner work. It's putting the correct label on it. It's being truthful, because there's a lot of mislabeling, and mislabeling things, even if you're in ignorance. Okay, and so I'll tell you how these spiritual laws work. Okay, the whole idea that it's all about your intention, that's all you need is a good intention, that's hogwash. Okay, good intentions do not build clean eating and exercise habits. They just do not. I know a lot of good people that are not able to get on a clean eating and exercise schedule. They're beautiful people. Okay, that being a good person does not do it. Inner work does. Learning how this system works does. Just like if you want money to do what you want it, you have to learn how money works. Okay, so you really want to learn how this system works. And really, we have our mind, our body, and our spirit. Okay, and our food, the things that go into our body, do affect us spiritually. It affects our whole vibration of our body. It affects everything. And so I'm a big advocate of people thinking of food and exercise from a spiritual aspect, because one of the simplest things we can do as a human is think, move, and eat. And each one of these things, if they're in line with our belief system, it's powerful. I mean, just take those 3 words and write them on a piece of paper and look at your thought process. Just say, well, what happens when I think this way compared to this way? Like thoughts, right? The power of a positive mind to negative, right? I could go into a situation, and if I'll use a great example. I have a video where my roof caved in. It cost me $90,000 at my business. I just hired a team of 5 staff that I had to lay off because the roof caved in. It cost me $90,000 to move my club. And ideally, I should have been so emotional. I should have took these people to court and got in all these arguments and spent all this time in this, honestly, boring legal system that's torturing people. I could have spent all this energy doing that. But instead, I sat down, I prayed. I was like, okay, how can I turn this into a positive? And I came up with a moving party. Okay, I raised $60,000, and my clients packed up my gym in 5 days. 30 clients, and moved it to a new location and set up which that normally would have cost me probably like 20 grand to pay somebody to do that. My clients became more like in a group. They were so excited to be even more part of this group. I had men in their 70s going around bragging to everybody that they tore apart this gym and built it back up. You know, we moved to a new location, and I got to spend all the time with my clients, and I spent very minimal time stressed, like feeling like I was a victim from this roof cave-in, which I was a victim. The people that owned this building neglected it, and they had an answer. They had the solution to fix it. And so anyways, there's lots of things that happen like this in life. And that was very traumatic. That was very traumatic from a sense that it was so huge that it was life altering, you know, but I chose to see, okay, how can I turn this into a positive? And I even had 5 clients, other females. We did 2 competitions and moved an entire gym within a 7-day period of time. And we did this and kept this dramatic schedule so that the 160 members at my gym would not miss more than 5 days of their workouts. Because when people are first starting in a lifestyle transformation, the first 3 months are so crucial. If other subjects get in there to distract somebody, it knocks them off their lifestyle plan with their nutrition and fitness, which I'm sitting here talking about this stuff today. People easily get triggered. That's a trigger. Like literally, that my whole entire goal with keeping that positive, with moving my gym and I'm going to link the video at the end of this one. I'm going to link the roof cave in so you can see all the pictures. This is totally traumatic and crazy. But it told me how much I was trained to turn positives into negatives, because I quickly went into that mindset, right? I didn't spend months going like, oh, I need to fight with these people, they treated me bad. I didn't even care. I didn't have to spend any time in a court. And I came up with another way to make the money. And it made my clients happy. You know, and we still competed and won. We got trophies. Like, I had 5 girls completely ripped out and we got trophies. You know, so that, and for me, I felt like that was me keeping my clients more of a priority over struggles or anything. But I would have never had that mindset if I would have just went right into like spending all this time with suing and court and all that kind of stuff. But anyways, so that's life on life's terms, right? My roof caved in, cost me $90,000, you know, but that, I think that's pretty amazing. So I'm going to link that up. I'll actually link it up right now, but it'll also be at the end of the video. So arguments and division. Okay. Okay. Self-governance and self-control. Okay. So here, if some of this stuff feels like it's too big to just grasp or start doing right away, this is what you want to do. Okay, you want to break it down into really, really, really small things. I kind of mentioned this earlier, and I'm going to go more into detail and just breaking it down. How you're going to break it down is just start with part of your daily voting process or part of an exercise program, right? So if your goal is to master clean eating and regular exercise, right? Just start doing it. Just, you know, the next time you go grocery shopping, plan different breakfasts or plan different lunches. Take 1 or 2 meals and just buy new ones for them, and just start taking care of 2 meals where you're just doing 30% of your voting process. You start cleaning up, right? The cool thing about the power of a positive mind and like how this stuff works is, and living on the benefits, basically, living on the benefits is in that law of attraction, like all this stuff that I'm bringing up. Just by taking 20 or 30% and starting to do actions that are in line with your belief system and what you want, it starts giving you that energy like, oh, I'm being me. And here's something I want to point out. People don't realize that they're not living in their belief system. The belief system of what they believe in, how they believe in being, or what they desire in their life, a lot of times, okay? And I want you to define whether this is you right now, okay? So I want you to listen. If you believe in clean eating, and you believe in exercise, and you're spending, and just take down and wrote down on a piece of paper how many hours you've spent looking up solutions for health issues, or looking up solutions for something, right? That's part of your belief system. You believe in being healthy. You believe in something more, even if you don't understand the full concept of it, right? You believe in it. That's why your body, if you didn't believe in it, you would have the health issue and you'd be like, oh, that's okay. I'm perfectly content with my health issue. I'm in balance. I'm in peace. People that are in peace while having health issues and having lots of weight, that's part of their belief system. And that's where they should be. That's where they should live. You know what I mean? And God gave us inherited rights to have a free will and to be who we believe in. So really defining out that life of what you believe in and want is one of the key truths to actually embody and meditate on. And if you are actually spending money on fixing your health, or spending money trying on clean eating, or spending even time looking up in the Google different things, if you found this video, this is probably part of your belief system, then you need to accept that being a healthy, fit person is actually part of who you are. And that's actually empowering to realize that part of our belief system is to be a healthy, fit person. And it's kind of like, and when you actually embody that and you accept that and you know that, that truth, that's being rigorously honest. You're like, even though I'm not at the health that I want right now, or I'm not doing the exercise I want right now, but just that recognition that that actually is who I am, you know, and that actually puts out a vibration. And that helps to empower you to say, okay, you know, I guess I can just like maybe change my breakfast, or maybe I can just change my breakfast and lunch, or maybe I could go for a hike this weekend. You know, maybe I can't exercise every week, but maybe I can exercise 4 times a month, right? So it starts this process of getting new habits in. And then what happens when you start eating clean and you start exercising? Your energy changes. Part of it is your chemistry is actually changing. So part of this is mental and part of this is physical, right? The mental encouragement of like, okay, I did a little bit. And then once you do a little bit, you might realize, oh, well, actually I could do a little bit more. Or I don't really have to do that other thing over there because clean eating and nutrition and exercise is part of my belief system. So, and it's actually more important than this thing over here, even though this thing over here is fun and I love the people, but this clean eating and exercise, it's actually, I am a clean eater. I am an exerciser. I am part of this group. I am a subscriber. I've always been part of that group. I didn't know it, and I've been living a life where I've just been sitting on the sidelines instead of participating in my group, right? And I'm just going to tell you, if you're spending money, even if you're not succeeding at your health and your fitness, if you're spending money and you're spending time to bring this energy in, it is part of your belief system. You just maybe don't realize how much it is or how it fits in your life. But go research, start understanding that stuff, start understanding you, okay? Because that's the process to self-control and self-discipline and mastery, okay? That's all part of the same trail. So, so my 11 steps to transformation are 11 steps that I created over the past 26 years. And it's really to take people through a process of their own inner work. And there's more things to inner work than the ones that I mentioned in this video, but I just kind of wanted to break down and hit some really strong ones, and I'll probably make another video on some other ones. But if you want a copy of this 11 steps to transformation, send me an email and I'll send it to you, or put a like in the comments with your email, and I'll find your email and I'll send it to you, or I'll have my assistant do it. But okay, so that was fun today. See you guys next week actually.